Hello, welcome back to Mary's Cookin Karaage Chicken, also known as Japanese fried chicken, but today I'm putting a little bit of a Chinese spin on it. Fusion, I believe they call it. Welcome back. In honor of our Japanese recipe today, I am having the last of my favorite little Japanese gin with a bit of tonic for good measure. And I'm so excited to be here. And I'm sending love to all of you who are in lockdown. I'm in Tasmania. We are not locked down. Does not mean we are not affected. But my heart goes out to Melbourne and Sydney at the moment. And I am affected because I can't just fly over and cuddle my friends. So raising a glass of gin to you this morning. Let's get started. Okay, we have 3 different stages that we're gonna do today, and I'm gonna give you the ingredients for each stage as it comes, but don't worry, for once I'm actually gonna put the recipe underneath so you'll be able to go back and double check. All right, let's get started. I'm gonna bring this over. Okie dokie, let's start off. We've got some fresh ginger. Now we don't need that much, but I had that much and I wanted you to see how affluent I am to have so much fresh ginger in my house. We also need some garlic. Here's a lovely big clump of it. I believe they call that a bulb. We have 2 teaspoons of dark brown sugar. You can use any sugar you like. I feel like the dark brown sugar has a more caramelly flavor. Delightful. I've got some sesame oil here. We're going to use about a tablespoon of that. We're going to use 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. My favorite brand is actually Kewpie. I believe it has a slightly different flavor, but this is what I have and that'll be fine. We've got 2 tablespoons of sake. And if you're feeling adventurous, a little bit of Japanese chili oil. And look, I'm not going to lie, it's actually 3 tablespoons of this bad boy. All right, let's get started. Oh, by the way, we also need the hero of the dish. This cheeky little guy. We're going with chicken tenderloins today. And here's a hot tip for young players. If you don't like the little pipey bits that appear sometimes on a chicken tenderloin, which I don't know why you would like them, just use some kitchen shears, cut it like that. It's gone. It's like it never happened. We'll throw that away. Oops. Try not to get it stuck on the tap. And there you go. And I have already pre-prepared the rest of these guys. So keep him off to the side and get yourself a cute little container. I'm also just going to wash my hands because I just touched raw chicken and that's gross. Get yourself a container with a lid. I like these little guys. They're glass. You can leave things in there for days on end. And a lid always helps. If you haven't got a container with a lid, you're gonna be okay. But I think you need to think about the priorities in your life. All right, to this container, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of sake. This is just a cooking sake. I got it from the supermarket, just from Woolies or Coles. Not everywhere has it, but you should be able to find it. Obviously, all these ingredients you would find in your local Asian grocer as well. Now, I am going to do 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. The good stuff. How good is soy sauce though? And this is my little twist on it. I love the smell and the taste of sesame oil. So this didn't appear in any recipe that I saw, but this is my Mary twist. And I don't normally measure it, I just throw heaps in, but we're gonna measure it today. And we'll say, go for about a tablespoon and maybe a little dash for good measure. Okie dokie. Next up, we're gonna add our brown sugar. And like I said, any sugar's fine. Even honey would be nice probably, but look, brown sugar it is. And gonna mix that in. Next up, if you are feeling brave, a couple of little drops of chili oil. Alrighty, now our cheeky little ginger and garlic. Let's start with the ginger. You may or may not know this, but the easiest way to prepare ginger is actually to use a teaspoon to peel it. Oh, there we go. So I need about this much ginger. If you love ginger, then you just go for gold and you can make more. But if you use a teaspoon, I'm not sure if I've ever told you this before, it's actually easier than using a peeler or a knife or anything else. So there you go. There's your hot tip for young players. Those of you following along at home. Oh my goodness, that ginger is so vibrant and I can just feel it reaching my nostrils and just getting on in there. And look, ginger can have a bit of a bite to it, so I wouldn't go crazy. This is probably as much as you would need. You do need to get the outside off because otherwise you've got weird little bits in there and nobody wants weird little bits. Do we? And I'm gonna just get that last little bit off there. Then you're gonna wanna take what I like to call a microplane. I think we've been through this before. It's not a tiny little plane. It is, in fact, a grater which has a nice fine edge to it. And we're just gonna grate that all in. I'm gonna just do it up on here, get it a bit quicker. Okay, we're nearly there and my arm's actually getting tired. So I think that maybe we don't need quite as much ginger as I said initially because I don't even have my Apple Watch on this wrist, so I'm not even getting the steps for it. But yes, I reckon that's enough. And taking your cheeky spoon, just make sure you get all of that stuff on the back, or you can just tap it in like that. Oh yeah. Don't lose any of that goodness. Now, I'll use that ginger for something else later. Let's talk about garlic. It's a wonderful thing. You can get some beautifully locally grown garlic around the place. This is Australian garlic and I like it because this one is like a mother of all garlic in that it is enormous cloves, which I particularly like because I get very lazy and I can't be bothered with all the little individual ones. So you can add this garlic however you like. Because I have the microplane out already, I'm just going to microplane this garlic, but I do need to get that outer layer off first. And normally I just sort of bash it a little bit and it comes out, but that, if you've got smaller cloves, then that will make it hard to microplane. And I'm going to, this is probably, how enormous is that? That's probably enough garlic, but if you're like really into garlic, then go for gold, doll. Go for gold. You do you. This is probably equivalent of maybe 3 normal size cloves. And I'm just going to microplane that in. I do have a garlic crusher, but why get 2 things dirty? 2 things for Richard to wash up. Lol. Okay, nearly there. Yummy. Can smell the garlic and ginger. It's a pretty classic combination, garlic, ginger, sesame, something sweet like sugar or honey, but it's the sake that kind of gives it that little Japanese edge, I believe. Alrighty, I'm not going crazy here. Tap it in. I'm going to stir everything together and then we are going to add our chicken. Now I've chosen chicken tenderloins today, but I've also done this with wings and with thighs. Oh, there's a pipey bit that got away. Oh well. I really feel like that the chicken tenderloins are probably the easiest way to have success with this recipe because they are breast pieces. Well, they're the tenderloin, the underneath side of the breast, which does tend not to dry out as much as the rest of the breast. And also, they're nice sort of portion sizes already done for you. But you can do this with any cut of chicken you like. Go for gold. Alrighty, I'm covered in marinade. Smells amazing. I'm gonna wash my hands. Now, if I was doing this for a normal week's cooking, I would pop this in the fridge and leave it overnight, or even a couple of days, as long as the chicken stays in date, obviously. But we are gonna power on, because I'm hungry, and actually it doesn't need to marinate for ages for the flavour to come through, but it is amazing if you leave it for at least overnight or a few hours. Anyway, Give me a moment, I'll be back. Okay, so your chicken is marinating away in your cute little airtight container for hours or days. If it's hours or days, pop it in the fridge, obviously. And next up, we are going to work on our coating. So you will need a bowl, a teaspoon each of white pepper and salt. If you don't have white pepper, go and buy some. No, if you don't have white pepper, you can use black pepper, but you're basic. Jokes. Next up, we need some potato starch. Now, this is not commonly found at Tasmanian supermarkets. It might on the Big Island, but for whatever reason, I can only ever really find this at the Asian grocer or the health food shop. So, you're going to need about a cup for this recipe, which I am very carefully measuring right now. There we go, beautifully done, Mary. Alrighty. Now, the beauty about potato starch is that it is gluten-free. So if you are working with a gluten-free diet, all you need to do is just make sure your marinade items are gluten-free, because you can get gluten-free soy sauce, etc. So, and then you can make this whole thing gluten-free. Amazing! But also, potato starch will crisp up a lot more beautifully than normal wheat flour. And I guess it's a bit like cornstarch in that way, but for whatever reason, potato starch is the way to go. Get it in your pantry. Do it now. Alrighty, we're gonna, to that, add our salt and pepper. There we go. And we're gonna need a spoon to just mix that through delightfully. So, oh, it's so complicated. Not sure that any of you home cooks are gonna be able to do this very difficult stage. I am joking, of course, and I know that we have some young little budding chefs out there who would definitely like to do this part. Alrighty. Olé. Not really in theme with our country of choice today. All right, next up I'm getting a lovely empty bowl. Soon that will be filled with some beautifully coated pieces of chicken. Now, something I neglected to mention is that this is deep fried. You are going to need an absolute crap ton of vegetable oil or whatever oil you want to use. I just get a cheap vegetable oil for this. So I have over here on my delightful stovetop what I like to call 2 litres of vegetable oil in this lovely non-stick saucepan. And I'm going to pop that on right now because that needs to come up to heat so that we can get frying. I'm actually putting that on the highest heat. All right, get out your chicken. I'm going to use fingers because I want to, and I don't care about touching raw chicken, and hopefully you're going to get through this too. Because of that lovely marinade, we don't need anything like egg to do that. We're just going to coat it in this mix like that. Get a good coating on there. Delightful, like so. Just make sure you get in all its little nooks and crannies. And then we're going to just pop it in a clean bowl ready to go or on a plate. And we're just going to do a little bit of these ones. I find that if you just use one hand, I probably shouldn't have any jewellery on. If you just use one hand, that's good. It's sort of a bit tidier. And then if you need your other hand, it's right there ready to go. Okay. And look, you can do it one at a time, or you can be an absolute pro, go for gold, get on in there. Oh no, somebody is actually maybe not a pro and should probably have gone for bronze or silver instead. Of course, all of you out there who are cooking today do have aprons on and your hair tied back, but being a celebrity chef, I decided to leave my hair out so that you could just see how very glamorous I am. So we're at the end of all our chicken, we're nearly there. And you are left with a bit of marinade there. Now that is actually quite a flavoursome little number. And if you want to, you can actually cook that down and have that on the side as a dipping sauce. I never have, not when I've used it with chicken. I have used it before when I've cooked it down, and I've used it as a base for a stir fry if you're going to have your chicken with vegetables, which I'm not doing today. But generally when people come over, I like to pretend that I like vegetables, and so I will make veggies as well. And that can be used. But you do need to cook it because it's had raw chicken in it. So you need to cook it down real good. Now I'm going to go and get all of this out of my face, off me. I'll be back momentarily and we'll check on that hot oil. This is your best mate in the kitchen when you are deep frying. So I like to get a board ready, and I prepare my board with a couple of layers of paper towel. And the reason for that is I find that this chicken works best when you fry it twice. You are also going to need something to get your chicken out with. So either tongs or one of these guys. I might use a little combination of both, and bigger tongs would be safer. Do you think I can find mine? No. Next up, you want your main event, which is your chicken. Now, the oil is feeling pretty hot. I think it's pretty much ready to go. Sometimes a good way to just check is to drop a little bit of something in there and just see if it rises to the top, because you really do want it. Yeah, so there's bubbles there. Now I'm just going to go for it and hope for the best. I like to use the pointy end and drag it and drop. And you can see it's sizzling straight away, which is a good sign. And then sometimes I'll just give it a little nudge. I don't want them to stick to the bottom, and that can happen. And since it does seem to be working, I'm going to place a few pieces in at once. I'm probably going to go with 5 at a time. Alrighty, my sprinkle. Now, toppings for this chicken dish are totally up to you. In fact, no recipes of this in a traditional sense will ever have this sprinkle. This sprinkle is actually from a recipe that I was given by my brother-in-law, who's an amazing, well, he used to be a chef, and he is amazing with food. So he passed that recipe to me. I tweaked it a little bit. I can't even remember what is still from the original recipe, but I like to add this on top, and it just so flippin' good. So let's have a look at the sprinkle ingredients. We have 1 teaspoon each of salt. I've got Himalayan pink salt there. It doesn't really matter what kind of salt as long as it's not chunky salt. 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of white pepper, again black pepper if you have to, but the smaller the grind the better, and 2 teaspoons of castor sugar. Now brown sugar tastes really good too, but if you are going to put it into a shaker, which I often do because I like to have whatever's left over and just keep it for future chickening events, you need one where all the granules come through at the same time, otherwise you miss out on half the flavour. So keep that in mind. That's why castor sugar is good. In here we have 1/2 teaspoon each of garlic and onion powder, and then we have a whole teaspoon of ginger. Then over here, the secret ingredient is Chinese 5 spice, and I have 2 teaspoons of that. Now, we are going to combine all of those together into one container of delight. There we go. And we are going to mix them through with a teaspoon or a tablespoon or whatever spoon you have. And I often will do a little taste test to make sure the balance is right, but you're never going to have like the full idea of it until you actually taste it on the chicken. If in doubt and it tastes a bit bitter, add more sugar. It's usually more sugar or more salt that you want, but I have found in recent times it's the sugar that really gets it. Now, that's my sprinkle. You are also, excuse me one moment, I'm just checking on my chicken. Ooh, yeah, they're ready to come out. Okay, because these are tenderloins. They're not going to take very long to cook, and the oil is quite hot, so they're cooking a bit quicker than I anticipated. So I'm going to take them out straight away. I'm going to actually use my tongs. The upside of tongs is that you don't take out as much oil as you go. The downside is that you've got to dip in there. It's a little bit more dangerous. Okay, and we're going to add some more. So we're just popping them over there to drain, and then we're going to add more. Now, if you were doing wings, you could leave them a bit longer because wings have got a bone in them. They always take longer to fry. And now I'm getting to this point where I get lazy and I'm just chucking them all in. There we go. Before we go any further, I must tell you a little bit about potato starch. So my chicken that I just grabbed out of the fryer was quite dark, and you will probably find if you've left it to marinate for a while that it's not that dark. Now, potato starch does not go golden brown like wheat flour and stuff like that. It does go a little bit golden, but not like that deep golden color. So the deep brown that you see in there is just because my marinade was so fresh. And so don't expect that. Pull it out after a couple of minutes, even if it's still looking really white. Got it? It'll be okay. Especially with tenderloins, you don't want to overcook them at all. Alrighty, now, the other things that you're definitely going to need for toppers are these spring onions. It may not seem like it's a big deal. It really is. It's my token green. And I like to just cut some bits up. Honestly, it tastes so good with the chicken. You wouldn't think so, but it also makes it look a lot prettier too. And I just chop those bits and save the rest for another dish. And I'm just going to pop that there. And something that is a staple, and if you don't already have this in your fridge, I am questioning everything I know about you. Kewpie mayonnaise. This is... there is not a better mayo out there. This is Japanese mayonnaise. You can get it at the supermarket. It's so flippin' delicious. It's also dairy-free. Hooray! But you can add things to it, like you can add barbecue sauce to it and make a delicious barbecue mayo. You can add a bit of lime to it, make a real zing. It's so flippin' flavoursome. Please put everything down. Don't leave your chicken frying. Go and get some of this. You need it in your life right now. I don't care what you say, you need it. Okay, and then the other thing I have here just to make things fancy is some sesame seeds. And I'm just gonna toast them in a fry pan and just get them a little bit toasty. It's not absolutely necessary. In fact, I barely ever do this, but this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna toast them like that in a little non-stick pan just to release some of those flavors, and that's just an added little sprinkle. Now we need to get back to our deep frying because that has been in there probably too long. Okay, and now we're going to put our other ones back in and we're going to finish them off. Traditionally, double frying just makes things crispier. I don't know the science behind it, but I do know that it works. And I'm just giving my sesame seeds a little bit of a toss in there. I might even turn them up a little bit. I reckon this chicken is ready because it is tenderloins. So I'm going to get them out. And that looks good. Raw chicken, not great. Not great for one's body. Alrighty, and in with the last lot of chicken. Woohoo! We are on the home stretch, brothers and sisters. My sesame seeds are toasted. I don't know why. I think I can get them back into this little bowl. Oh, yep, didn't spill any. There we go. Yum. Yum. You can also serve this with a little bit of citrus. I had some lime left over from my gin and tonic. I don't usually serve it with citrus, but I have seen that as an option. And do you know what? Toppings just look a little bit fancy. So, do it. Okay, here is our chicken. Feeling crispy and delicious. Now, I'm gonna just use a spoon like this, a soup spoon, and I'm going to do the shake like this. It is a sprinkle, it is not a coating. Do not do what I once did and just toss it all through in one big bowl. It's way overpowering. You just want a little sprinkle of that. Ooh. And I'm going to turn all these pieces over and do the same on the other side. Whoops. Probably should use tongs. Oh my word, what is going on? If you're not putting the sprinkle on, I would suggest finishing it off with a little bit of salt and pepper. At this point, I would either slice it up or pop it straight in bowls. And we're going to leave these pieces whole. And I'm going to show you how I would serve it if I had guests coming over. Oh, however you want in the bowl. Let's do 4 bits each because why not? I'm gonna do a sprinkling of sesame seeds, which are much warmer than I was expecting. Once you've toasted your sesame seeds, they can go cold and you can keep them like that because they'll retain the flavour. Next up, Kewpie, best friend in the kitchen, voted most valuable player. Ready? And these ones. Yes. And then finishing off with your spring onions. Yes, and amen. So flippin' wondrous. There you have it. There's some fried chicken that is going to change your life. And I guess, ooh, just to be fancy, let's chuck a little lime wedge on there. Yes, ready? I'm so excited. It's everything and more, honestly. The sesame, toasted sesame just takes it to that next level. This is so delicious. The flavour of the marinade is not as deep as it normally is because I do normally leave it for a few days. But that is a tasty dish that I would be happy to serve to any of my esteemed guests. Anyway, go, have an amazing life, try the recipe, tell me how well it went, thank me later. I love you all. Good night.